Our mind is a brilliant machine, but it also has a talent for sabotage. It can take the smallest problem, a late reply, a strange look from someone, a minor mistake at work, and inflate it into a full-scale disaster. This psychological habit is called catastrophizing, and most people don't even notice when they're doing it. The mind starts with something tiny and harmless, but instead of stopping at the facts, it jumps straight to the worst possible outcome. It's like having an inner storyteller who always chooses the darkest plot twist. And once this storyteller begins whispering, logic becomes quiet. This happens because the human brain is built for survival, not happiness. Thousands of years ago, assuming the worst kept people alive. A rustle in the bushes might have been the wind or a predator. Those who prepared for danger survived. Today there are no predators in the bushes, but the brain still acts as if every unexpected situation is a potential threat. So, it scans constantly for danger, and when it finds something unclear, it fills the gap with fear. Not because the situation is truly dangerous, but because the mind hates uncertainty. And when the mind doesn't know what's happening, it makes something up, usually something terrifying. This is why a simple unanswered message becomes they're ignoring me, which becomes they don't like me anymore, which turns into everyone leaves me anyway. A small mistake becomes I messed up, then I'll lose my job, then my whole life will fall apart. One bad day quickly becomes my life is going nowhere. Problem isn't the situation, it's the chain reaction our thoughts create. The brain doesn't check whether the story is true. It simply follows the emotional momentum. Fear speeds up the imagination, and the imagination builds a future that feels real, even when it's pure fiction. The worst part is that the body reacts to imagined danger the same way it reacts to real danger. A thought like something is wrong triggers stress hormones, tension in the muscles, faster heartbeat, shallow breathing. Suddenly, the body feels like it's under attack. And when the body panics, the brain panics even more. It becomes a loop. Fear creates stories, stories create fear. A loop strong enough to convince a person that they're losing control. Even though nothing is actually happening, most people blame themselves for being too emotional or too sensitive. But the truth is simpler. This is how the human brain works when it doesn't get corrected. Catastrophizing is the default mode of a mind that never learned to pause. People think the solution is to stop worrying, but that never works. The real solution is to interrupt the story the moment it starts, to catch the first exaggerated thought before it grows teeth. When the mind says, something terrible is happening, the question should be, what facts do I actually have right now? Usually the answer is, almost none. Another important truth is that the brain magnifies problems the most when we are tired, stressed, lonely, or overwhelmed. A thought that feels catastrophic at night often looks ridiculous in daylight, but in the moment, it feels real because the emotional system hijacks the rational one. That's why even strong people break down over small things. The problem wasn't small. The mind inflated it until it became unmanageable. The good news is that catastrophizing is learned, and anything learned can be unlearned. The mind is not a fixed system, it's a habit-forming machine, and it will believe whatever you repeatedly tell it. If you constantly feed it fear, it will create fear. If you teach it to question the panic, it will slowly stop manufacturing worst-case scenarios. The shift happens when a person starts recognizing the difference between fear and reality. Fear is loud, dramatic, and urgent. Reality is quiet, neutral, and usually uncomplicated. The irony is that most catastrophic thoughts never become real. 90% of the things we panic about never happen, and the remaining 10% are rarely as dramatic as the mind predicted. But the brain doesn't remember the calm outcomes. It remembers the fear. That's why we must remind ourselves, again and again, that thoughts are not facts, that a feeling of danger doesn't mean danger exists, that imagination can be cruel, but it is still just imagination. The mind can turn small problems into catastrophes, But it can also learn to turn catastrophes back into small problems. The moment you realize that your brain is telling stories, not truths, you regain control. You stop letting fear be your narrator. You stop living inside imaginary disasters. And slowly, something powerful happens. Life becomes lighter, simpler, quieter, not because the world changed, but because you stopped fighting threats that never existed.